Well, hello, friends, and welcome back to a new season of the New Age Tour Guide podcast. If this is your first encounter with me, I'm Trish Murray, and this podcast is really about sharing content and creative ways of navigating these age-changing times. And that becomes a threshold for some listeners. Are you seeing or feeling the cultural, social, economic, political landscapes shifting? If you aren't sure how to make sense of what's happening in our world right now, season 1 might be of benefit to you. I draw on a variety of viewpoints with the intention of broadening our perspective and creating a different level of awareness around what's transpiring in the outside world, the external circumstances of our life on planet Earth. I draw from astrology and psychology, and I even tune into some of the most compelling ideas that I've found that have been pointing to the possibility that humanity is moving through a really significant turning point. But in season 2, I'm going to bring you into new thresholds. I'm going to use a specific framework developed by Dr. David Hawkins, the map of consciousness. And I'm going to combine that with examples and insights and stories from my own Eat, Pray, Love journey, and share a little bit about how I think we can shift and anchor new levels of consciousness and find our way to truly thrive in this new age. Now, moving with the spirit of this new age of authenticity, let me say that I'm not a coach and I'm not a counselor, I'm not a therapist. I don't profess to have all or any of the answers. I'm not using this podcast, or my Substack channel for that matter, to monetize products or services or to sell programs or courses. Not that there's anything wrong with any of those things. You will probably have the best experience, though, if you engage with what I share from an understanding that this space is a place where I'm fostering my own creative expression. It's a space that I've dedicated for myself to share ideas and theories that I'm working with, inspirations and insights that I'm gathering from a wide array of directions, and where I'm testing what it is to live as a sovereign soul. In season 2, I created a series of conversations that are really designed to be perennial in nature. And what I mean by that is that it's my hope that they will be enduring. They will be timeless in some sense, and that they will be relevant for people at multiple points through this collective evolution that we're engaged with right now. Season 2 focuses primarily on the pure power of intentionally raising our consciousness. And I speak candidly about key influences that I've found that are blocking or derailing our progress. Influences like the media, the marketing, and high-profile messengers, which I describe as the Matrix. Throughout season 2, I also share examples from my own journey in the last, say, 10 or 15 years about how these influences really showed up for me. Like how I went from being completely triggered by President Trump to cycling through the entire map of consciousness in one night after almost losing my niece's dog this summer. Each season has 9 episodes, and at this point, I plan to do 3 seasons. The first 5 minutes of each episode is video so that you can see who you're listening to and maybe give yourself a little bit of confidence that you're not tuning into something that's been AI generated. You're not. You're not. But then I intentionally shift gears and move into a pure audio podcast because the one thing that I have found to be absolutely true above all else when it comes to shifting consciousness is that we intentionally need to tune out the distractions in order to tune in order to listen for what we need to hear today. We need to be able to create some space so that we can shift our minds and prepare our hearts and listen and reconnect with our soul's voice of wisdom so that we can find truth and wisdom in the directional insights that have the most meaning for us. So let's dive in to a tour of David Hawkins' Map of Consciousness. Okay, so when I found this term about 4 years ago, I knew that it was going to be a keeper for me. I also knew that it was probably going to show up on a business card at some point in the future. I am an apocaloptimist. I really wish that I had kept the original post where I picked this up, because now, when I search for its origins, all I find are the fast followers who jumped on the wagon behind the creative genius that crafted this gem. So first, to the originator of the apocaloptimists, I salute you. I thank you. And if I ever find out who you are, I will publicly acknowledge you. Now, if this is your first encounter with the term, I believe this term came from someone who had red pilled themselves, a little or a lot. Now, I say that because that's where I was when I found it. Down the bottom of a million rabbit holes, chewing on a million red pills. Now, I think that there are some who think that they know that it's all going to shit, but still believe that it will turn out okay. But personally, I believe that this term is truly reserved for those of us who, by the chaos of our own awakening journey, know that it's all going to shit, and yet still know that it's all going to turn out okay. Now, and off the off chance that that didn't make sense at all I can say is that when you know, you know. So, it's all going to shit. You know that, right? And by all, I mean the ways of the world, the practices, the people, the processes, the institutions and the structures and so on that are no longer sustainable and probably never were from the get-go. It's all going to shit. And by shit, I mean they are disintegrating, declining, and dissolving, in some cases, right before our eyes. Apocaloptimists in true red pill character are not entertaining any more illusions of sustainability, of stability, or of sovereignty. The only thing that we accept now is changed behavior, which creates quite a pickle for those who want this, quote, new age to come forward with all kinds of light and love without actually changing their behavior, without actually seeing beyond the illusions, without creating from a place of stability, sustainability, and true sovereignty for all beings. So are you willing? Are you willing to change your behavior? Are you willing to create from real stability? Create something that you can sustain over the long term. And are you willing to create from a place of true soul sovereignty? Oh, right. And are you willing for all beings to have the same access, opportunities, and self-empowerment in order to create alongside you? Because here's my take on this. If you aren't willing, then you're woke. You know, that word that everyone's using, and they think they know what it means, but really they're just another one of those woke talking to the world about what wokeism is. You'll find them inside any mainstream media, splattering all kinds of big words, probably made up words that make them sound oh so clever, about how awake they are. But we really, when you hold their feet to the fire and ask them if they are willing, you're able to see that, oh, no, just another one of the woke. In the spirit that I have become accustomed to, let's consider what willing actually means, its pure definition. I like this starting point: ready to act. It's so perfect after a lengthy discussion last time about the frequency of neutrality and how we know that it's time to move when we feel compelled to take aligned action. Willing means being ready to act, not in a character, in a play or a movie sense, but act in an astrological Mars is in the house kind of way. Mars being the planet of action. Mars brings its fiery energy, its initiating energy in, and boom, makes shit happen. Willing means being prompted to act or ready to respond. You see how brilliant David Hawkins' research was? He proved that there was no way that we can be ready to respond, willing to respond, without first passing through the frequency of neutrality. It means acting of your own volition, of your own will, hence willing, having the power to choose, which brings us back again to the breakthrough frequency of courage and the requirement of holding for a time the frequency of neutrality. Guys, I can do this all day long. This is fun for me. Pulling these things apart so that I get to see for myself even more clearly what Hawkins, in his much more academic style of delivery, wanted us to get a hold of. The progression of consciousness, which happens one step at a time. It's a process. It's progressive. One step, build towards the next. Each step leads us into the next, if we are willing. However, if we are woke, we will probably talk about progress and hammer out all the intellectual elements of the process, but we won't actually ever really take action. You want to know the distinction between the willing and the woke? It's action, which could be hysterically hypocritical for me to say if I hadn't been developing the process this season of sharing with you how these levels of consciousness have moved me into action, how I have seen each layer of consciousness show up in my world. Then I'd be woke. And I was for a long time. I had a whole lot to say about a whole lot of things, but I lacked the embodiment of those things, mostly because I wasn't willing. I mean, it was a whole lot of effort. I wasn't guaranteed the outcomes, and I was actually pretty comfortable. So I stayed woke until spirit started to move me into discomfort. Well, then I got cranky, but then I got curious, and then I got compelled, and finally I got committed. It was a process. It was progressive. It was painful at times, but there was a purpose. And the purpose was to activate my will in order to achieve the growth that my soul came here for. Oh, you thought it was going to be something more epic, like big, over the top, public facing, maybe a stage, ooh, or a bus, ooh, or a plane with my face on it. That seems like something that could really activate our will, and who wouldn't be willing to raise their hand for that? Only if that's your end game, then you're woke. You're willing if you're getting all jazzed up about the idea of soul growth. You're woke if you're waiting for the world to celebrate you for it. You're willing if you're watching multiple aspects of your life go to shit and still feel like the story isn't over yet, and maybe even that the best is yet to come. But you're woke if you're whining about how uncomfortable life is, how unfair people are being toward you, and if you're looking for the easy way around all this, quote, growth business. But you're willing if you have reconciled that the only way around is through. Yeah, but you're woke if you're still trying to convince yourself that hope isn't a strategy. But you're willing if you have come to see that hope is not just a strategy, but it's the fuel that moves strategy into action. I remember hearing that a number of years ago. Hope isn't a strategy. And I remember thinking, wait, what? It isn't? Of course, I was still woke, so I probably believed the speaker knew what they were talking about. Then I really started to consider what a strategy was. According to Michael Porter, who taught strategy at Harvard Business School, which is also so woke, but I digress. Porter's perspective was that strategy is a process for determining what not to do. I love double negatives because they really make you think. You're woke if you don't like thinking. You're willing if you are using the God-given brain in your head to think. Strategy is a process. It's a process for determining things. Things to do, things to not do. So what is hope? For I think hope is totally a strategy. And for the red pill chewing apocaloptimists in the group, hope is a solid strategy. For us, what we hope will happen directs our actions. We act in accordance with what we hope becomes true as a result of our actions. Apocaloptimists are willing in that we use the power of our will to move into actions that we hope will create the outcomes that we want to see. We hold a worldview, according to David Hawkins, that is defined as hopeful. Probably because we've learned to hold the frequency of neutrality, where we learned to trust in a version of God that is enabling us to act and to encourage the use of our will in appropriate ways and to release our disappointment when things don't go perfectly and instead become content with what we know is satisfactory for the time. Oh, there's a lost art form. Appreciating what is satisfactory. Knowing what is satisfying. Valuing what gives us a sense of satisfaction. You're woke if you find nothing satisfactory, satisfying, or have no recent experience of satisfaction. You're willing if you can linger in the simple experiences that were satisfactory, satisfying, and anchored into you a deep sense of satisfaction. So, my fellow traveler, what do you hope will happen today, tomorrow, in the Middle East, with the economy, in your work, your family, your love life? After you're done listening to this podcast, what do you hope will happen if you shift from the frequency of neutrality into the frequency of willingness? What do you hope will happen if you activate your will and, if it applies, if you stop being woke? Given that the vast majority of things that will happen are far beyond the locus of our control, what intention will you set anyway? What do you hope will happen? And what direction do you intend to activate your will to increase the chances of that actually happening? Here's a couple of mine. I hope we don't experience a zombie apocalypse, but I intend to use all of the skills, resources, and wisdom from watching 8 seasons of The Walking Dead to increase the chances of thriving should it actually happen. And I'm not joking. I hope that I don't find myself homeless and living out of a cardboard box one day, but I intend to put my skills, talents, knowledge, and wisdom into action to enjoy the short-term freedom that might create for me and rebuild my foundation should it actually happen. Not actually joking. I hope that I don't die in a world where more people are woke than willing, but I intend to enjoy my life regardless. I intend to work with the willing and do what I can to inspire the woke to awaken so that there's less chance that I die in a world where more people are woke than willing. You get how this is working? I have been inspired by the idea of intention for quite a while. It started for real in 2018, even though the circumstances that sparked it were as woke as shit. I chose to spend $25,000 US, which would be like $100,000 today, joking, with a coach that was all about the intention stuff, the spiritual law stuff, and the power of manifestation stuff. I'll spare you guys the gory details, except to say this. I learned what woke really was through this experience. It was like when you realize the only reason your investment portfolio has manifested an increase year over year because you have been paying into it faithfully every month. It was a complete smoke and mirrors experience for me. Oh, I took some interesting insights away and had some hard learned lessons that have stayed with me. But really learning how to work with the spiritual laws in practical, pragmatic ways, yeah, didn't happen. Learning the practical nuts and bolts behind manifestation, nope. Learning how to be strategic and soulful with my intention setting, 3 for 3. But I believe in the power of intention because it guides our actions. It guides how we activate our will. and it channels our energy into action. One of the best resources I did find through that incredibly expensive woke experience was a book called The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. I liked it better than any other that I found through that period of time. I liked it better than Napoleon Hill. I liked it better than Thomas Troward, and I love Thomas Troward's work. I liked it better than Genevieve Bourren. I liked it better than any of the others who came before or after them. The Science of Getting Rich is so brilliantly written, and it follows all 6 rules that George Orwell had on writing well. It's 53 pages long, and it cuts right to the heart of what quantum physics, spiritual traditions, my woke coach, and the millions of pages on shelves in a million bookstores are making more and more complicated. In this book, there's an entire chapter on the proper use of the will. And that chapter starts with this. Wallace writes, "Do not try to apply your willpower to anything outside of yourself. You have no right to do so anyway. It is wrong to apply your will to other men and women in order to get them to do what you wish done. It is as flagrantly wrong to coerce people by mental power as it is to coerce them by physical power. If compelling people by physical force to do things for you reduces them to slavery, compelling them by mental means accomplishes exactly the same thing. The only difference is in the methods. If taking things from people by physical force is robbery, then taking things by mental force is robbery also. There is no difference in principle." Now, I could go in a million different directions on this one piece, and I won't right now. But if you are still confused about woke versus willing, read The Science of Getting Rich, and specifically the chapter on the proper use of the will. Because I promise you that the woke culture and the matrix of the media, the marketing, and the messengers that permeates every part of our current global culture is doing absolutely everything that Wallace Wattles counseled us not to do. In this book, you will find simple strategies for determining what not to do relative to getting rich, relative to manifestation, relative to intention setting, and relative to not being woke in 53 pages. As far as how-to guides go, it's easily in my top 3. And to be clear, where I fail to succeed with his instruction, it is only and 100% due to the fact that I am not using my will in the proper way. Mental note: set an intention to start reading The Science of Getting Rich. So how is it that we apocaloptimists are able to hold a predominant emotional state of optimism, even as we see everything going to shit? I think it's because we are becoming increasingly more willing than woke. Hey, thanks for joining me for another episode in a series of conversations exploring how we can harness the power of consciousness to navigate these age-changing times. If you found a few insights that resonated for you, I'd appreciate it if you shared it with someone in your corner of the world. And don't forget to subscribe in order to share a comment with your thoughts, experiences, or ideas that have been sparked. This Substack space is dedicated to fostering my own creative expression, so you won't hear calls to action, sponsored messages, or promotions. But if you want to learn more about me and how I'm realigning my work to thrive in this new age, you can find a link to my website below. Until next time, I'm Trish Murray, offering Sovereign Souls a guided tour of key elements driving the creation of this new age.